Hey guys, it's Christian from Lost in Discovery, and today I want to talk to you guys about The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I said I was going to start this series this year, and it's 2 days into the year, and I have finished the first book. This book had me enthralled from page 1 all the way through to the end, and today I want to tell you why I found this book so damn enjoyable. Let's do it. Now, The Blade Itself is the first book in the First Law trilogy, and Joe Abercrombie is really known for being a grim, dark fantasy author. Grim, dark fantasy is that dark, dirty, violent, brutal type of fantasy that you've probably seen in Game of Thrones and the A Song of Ice and Fire book series. That is where my fantasy reading journey really picked up in my late teens and early 20s, and I have missed that tone so sorely over the years. Don't get me wrong, I've loved reading Sanderson and his Cosmere, and it's been amazing, but I've missed the brutalness that can come, and the darkness, and the realness that you can get in some grim, dark stories, and The Blade Itself was a perfect example of that. Now, you've probably heard it before, but I'm gonna say it like everyone else has. What makes this book stand out is its characters. The three main characters in this book are fantastic and are easily some of my favorite characters I have ever read. Let's talk about them for a little bit. Now, the first character you get introduced to is Logen Ninefingers, and Logen Ninefingers is a barbarian from the north. He is on the run. He has presumed that all his crew are dead, and he is riding solo, sleeping under the stars and just getting by. Logen kind of gets whisked away into this massive quest line that he has no idea what it's about, but he doesn't care what it's about. He just wants to be doing something and being safe, but he's trying to kind of improve himself from his past. He has a bloody past. He's known as the Bloody Nine, and people are terrified of him, but he's trying to kind of improve himself and avoid violence and confrontation altogether. He does his best to do that, but it doesn't really work out so well, and when those fight scenes hit, and when we get showcases of what the Bloody Nine is capable of, it is like, yeah, it's good. It's mind-blowing. Our next main character is Sandan Glokta, and this guy, from the first page, I was like, is this one of my favorite characters I've ever read? Sandan Glokta is one of the best written characters I've read in my short and inexperienced life in terms of reading. Now, Glokta used to be a knight in shining armor, the perfect example of the fantasy hero, winning fencing contests, doing well in battle, but he was captured in his youth and tortured over a period of about 2 years. He came out crippled, lost teeth, unable to move, needs a cane to walk, like he is messed up. He is in constant pain, and the cherry on top is that he is now an inquisitor, and he is torturing people and interrogating them. So dude, if that's not grimdark, I don't know what is. In one of the very early Glokta chapters, most of it is just him making his way down a flight of stairs. That might sound boring to you, but it was one of the best chapters I've read in a long damn time. I was enthralled every step. I was invested. Are we gonna make it down this flight of steps, dude? When Joe Abercrombie describes pain for this guy, it is like you get secondhand pain from reading this, so just be aware of that. Like, if he stubs his toe, you stub your toe when you read that. Now, that's not to say that this book is so incredibly dark that you feel crappy and depressed or whatever after reading it. I had a smile on my face and I laughed out loud throughout this entire book. The inner dialogue of these characters is hilarious. These guys are some of the funniest dudes I've ever read. Their judgments and insights on people around them is just, yeah, it's just hilarious, and it's so much fun to read. The whole tone of this book has a dark humor to it. It reminds me of some of my favorite dark humor media, like the early seasons of Breaking Bad, where you're like, this is so intense, I'm so invested in these characters, but I'm also laughing my ass off because they're just in the most strange and weird scenarios, and the way the characters see what's going on is just so damn entertaining. Now our third main character is Jezal Dan Luthar, and Jezal is a young dude and he's trying to get better at fencing. He's a really, really wealthy, well-positioned guy with a good family, and he is kind of doing the early years of Glokta's life trying to win this fencing competition. Now, how does he fit into this grim dark setting? Well, he's a total narcissist. He's in love with himself, and he basically thinks everyone else is there to serve him and further his goals. And Jezal is probably the most easiest character to kind of dislike as you read this, but as you get to know him more, there is some goodness to him. These characters are very morally grey characters. There's no like good guy, bad guy in this book. They're very, very grey characters. Jezal finds himself kind of falling for a woman who's way below his social station. So that's where lots of the tension in his chapters come from, where he's like fighting with his narcissism, like, how can I be with someone like this? And just so you get the full extent of what this dude is like, there is a full page of him looking in the mirror, admiring his jawline and describing in detail why it is the most superior jawline as opposed to anybody else that he knows or has heard of. Now, it takes a while for these characters to start to interact. They're all in very different places at the beginning of the book, but by about halfway through, our characters' stories start to intertwine and we start to get interactions. And this is where the book gets stepped up to a whole other level, because you know these characters so well. You know what makes them tick. You understand how they see the world. And when you've got them all in a room together, it is just gold. Like, nothing can go wrong in these scenes in terms of like the quality of what you're reading. It is so much fun, and you are constantly thinking, what's Glokta going to think of this situation? How is Logen going to interpret this? What's Jezal going to think about himself in this in this scene? Now, that's not saying that it's only those three main dudes that are the standout characters. Basically, anyone who has a line of dialogue in this book is gold. It's just straight up gold. And one character I really want to see more of in the next book is Pharaoh. And Pharaoh is one of the main female characters in this story. It seems like she was so close to being one of the main people, and I think maybe she'll get a greater role in the next books. She's an ex-slave and she is out for vengeance. Anyone who had anything to do with what enslaved her, she's out to kill them, and trust me, you don't want to run into her. The characters in this book are so bad and you want to stay away from them in real life, but when you read them, you just want to be over their shoulder and be like, dude, what are you thinking? Probably the most fun I've had reading a book since Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. The plot in this book really started to pick up towards the end, and we got a greater sense of like what the main journey or the main quest, you could say, of the book is going to be, and I cannot wait to see what happens. Now, in terms of the magic in this book, it's pretty light on. There are some very magical and cool things that happen, but it's not explained to the depth that Brandon Sanderson would do. It's just kind of like wizards doing a cool thing with hints of how they did it. And that was fine by me because I was keen on the gritty dark setting. A bit of magic sprinkled in was fine. Imagine the magic of Game of Thrones in terms of like how much you understand it, and it's that kind of vibe. The banter between characters, the inner dialogue, the fight scenes, the tension, it was all there, and man, I freaking loved this book, and I cannot wait to read the entire First Law. And I've already got all of Abercrombie's books on my wish list now. Like, he has completely sold me with this novel. I really suggest you give The Blade itself a go, even if only for the characters. The inner dialogue of these characters is worth the price alone for this book, and damn dude, I'm sold. Those are my thoughts on The Blade itself. I have so much more to say. I'd love to do a spoiler talk later. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. This has been Christian from Lost in Discovery. I'll see you guys all in my next video, and read this book. It's damn good.